Good morning, everyone. Good morning. If everyone can find their seats. I'm Mike Wallace. I'm the Legislative Director for Housing, Community, and Economic Development at the National League of Cities. And together with my colleague Lauren Lowery, we run the Housing Supply Accelerator. Welcome to the Moment for Housing is Now, a summit to envision our city's future with today's leading mayors on housing, co-hosted by my mayor, Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, and the National League of Cities. We want to thank our sponsors, Amazon and the Office of the Department of Mayors, for planning and economic development with the city. And we want to thank the Georgetown McCourt School of Public Policy for providing this venue, which is so nice. We ask you not to consume food or beverage inside the auditorium. And if you take a minute to silence your cell phones for the program, I would appreciate it. We have a great agenda. I'm really ready to get started. So I would like to invite our host, our first speaker, Mayor of Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser, to the stage.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here for this very important topic. I want to thank Clarence Anthony and the National League of Cities for convening us for this national discussion on housing, for bringing everybody here today to talk about what's so important in America's cities, what's working, what's not, and where we need to pivot in this post-pandemic world. We're delighted to be here at the beautiful Georgetown McCourt School for Public Policy, where we have convened a number of discussions on issues important to Washington, D.C. and America's cities. Our hearts certainly go out to our fellow Americans in Los Angeles as they battle wildfires and really get back to the lives that they so enjoy. And certainly, I know city leaders around the nation are with them in spirit, but also with anything that we can do to support them. Again, I want to thank you for being here today. It's pretty cold in Washington. Yes, it is January, but this is even unseasonably cold for us. But we are in full swing preparing for Monday's inaugural events, and all those planning to attend should make sure that they're bundling up and having the best winter wear that they can pull together. I also want to recognize Deputy Mayor Nina Albert, who's the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development for Washington, D.C. And Nina will be speaking to you a little bit later in depth about our commitments to affordable housing and what has worked for us. Of course, it's a broad topic, and in lots of cities like D.C., we are looking for ways to add more housing and to make housing more affordable. We've been strategic about where we're building, and especially in the downtown and around public transit. We know it's important for growing our cities, for keeping families, and because no one wants to be a city that's losing people. That's why we were so proud to be the fastest growing state in the nation post-pandemic, achieving a population greater than our pre-pandemic population. So I am going to curtail further remarks because I know we want to get to a great fireside discussion with our colleague and a former member of our team from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. But I will end with this. I've been fortunate to be able to keep promises around affordable housing in my 10 years as D.C. mayor, both in financial commitments to our Housing Production Trust Fund. We've exceeded actually the $100 million per year we committed. But because we've been able to do that, we have achieved faster than we said our 36,000 new homes by 2025. We hit that last year. And we're on track to meet our goal, within that goal of 12,000 affordable homes. So we follow the mantra in our city of build, baby, build when it comes to affordable housing. And we're looking for more ways to make our goals even more robust across all 8 wards so that more people can achieve safe, affordable housing in our city. So with that, I think I'm turning it back. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Bowser. To help open this session, I'd like to invite to the stage CEO and Executive Director of the National League of Cities, Clarence Anthony.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and thank you for joining us here today in this important meeting that's really going to tackle an issue that impacts everyone in America, every resident in America who desires to have a place that they can call home, a place with a rooftop that's safe and that they can raise their family. And as the title of this convening, the moment is now. We can wait to next year or we could think about the past, but the moment and opportunity for us to address this issue is now. First, I want to thank our partners in this summit, Washington, D.C. Mayor Bowser and her team for assisting us in pulling this vision together. That is a key part of coming up and addressing and identifying solutions to the supply gap that we have in America. I would also like to thank Georgetown for their accommodation and space and critical insights and connections that they bring to this convening. Alongside NLC staff, you've met Mike and Lauren. I also like to recognize my leadership here, our president, Steve Patterson from Athens, Ohio, and our second vice president, Mayor Van Johnson from Savannah, Georgia. And I'm also so honored to have so many mayors from all over America. You know, I see my local mayors, Texas mayors, Utah. So if you ask who's in the House, the municipal leaders are ready to partner, and we're ready to be a part of this conversation today. The mayors talked about Amazon and also the deputy mayor for planning and economic development, who is a rock star and doing such great things. And I'm a fan anyway, regardless of whether y'all are a fan. So, Nina, thank you so much for what you do. I want to just pause and say NLC is in the business of providing solutions and technical assistance for municipal officials all over America. But we recognize that we can't do it alone. And we think about the collectivity of the partners that we need in order to address this changing landscape of housing at the local level. That's what we're going to focus on, the local level. We're not going to always think about expecting the leaders from the federal level or the state level to provide us with solutions. We're going to buckle up, and we're going to do that and hoping that we have a partner. But the Housing Accelerator initiative that we implemented last year is a national model that really focus on getting locally driven solutions to resolve and improve the housing needs in communities all over America. We acknowledge and we recognize that we can't do this alone, though. It's not that it's just a city issue, but city leaders have brought in philanthropic organizations, public-private partnerships. We've been able to work with community-based organizations to come up with solutions to this challenge. that has really crippled a lot of communities throughout our nation. Oftentimes, cities are the ones that they point fingers to, though, as the problem. They say that, our regulations, our planning processes, how long it takes to get the permits out there. And, it's time out for finger pointing. We got to sit down and come up with solutions. And this is what this convening is all about. We want to come up with better ways. We want to listen to each other. And we want to connect the challenges to the opportunities. So as we engage in this convening, we are going to confirm the role of local leaders in coming up with housing solutions, closing the gaps, stop saying the data that we had 4 to 10 million gap in supply. We're going to address those. We're going to do like the mayor did, set a goal, and we're going to go to work. And that's what we do at the National League of Cities, and that's what we do at the local level. So we're excited about doing our part, and we're excited about this national partnership that we've created, and most importantly, the next steps, the next solutions, the next opportunities to be able to provide a place for people and communities all over America that they can call home. That's the bottom line, and that's what we are charged with here today. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Mike. All right, I've been told I got another job. I get paid for it, so I am going to do that. Michael, give me my notes down there. Right there on the floor, organized the way I organize. All right, so we're going to go right into a fireside chat with some amazing leaders who have really challenged America as well as challenged the residents of D.C. To tackle this issue of housing. The first is our own Mayor Bowser, who you all know is a long-time resident in D.C., starting at the level of the Advisory Neighborhood Commission, 2004, 2006, and then moved on to the D.C. City Council. The mayor is D.C.'s 7th mayor since 2016, a leader in housing supply in our nation, especially in our capital, and especially in the area of affordable housing and investments. Her administration has invested $1 billion in affordable housing. And so I'm so proud to be able to be here and partner with the mayor, who I am, again, y'all don't know what y'all got. Y'all got an amazing mayor around the nation who's doing wonderful stuff. I'm also honored to introduce the Honorable Adrian Todman, who is also Interim Secretary of HUD, a supportive ally of NLC, but a longtime supporter of housing supply efforts throughout America. Part of NLC's first housing task force in 2019, where Madam Secretary, was a part of that task force that the mayor actually led back in that time. So we've been working together for a while on this topic. So thank you all so much for being here, and I'm excited to have this conversation with these two great leaders. All right, sometimes, when you're doing a fireside chat, you don't really know the people. I know both of these amazing leaders. So if we get real comfortable and we start saying things that we haven't said before, you haven't heard before, it's because we do know each other and we have tracked each other's work. I'm going to start with an easy question. And it talks about this moment, this pivotal moment that we have for addressing housing challenges across America. Why is this the moment? Why, Mayor, when you called, you said, NLC, I want you to partner with me on this because it is compelling.
Yes, well, Clarence, we have been working on these issues a long time. Mayors from big cities, mid-sized cities, and small towns. The issue of housing, affordability, safety affects Americans in every state and jurisdiction. And what I knew when I was elected 10 years ago as mayor, our biggest issue was indeed affordability. How would our city grow if housing prices outpace what people were earning? And how could people who were born here or who came here for a great job be able to live a great life in Washington, D.C.? So I think the reason why this moment is pivotal for us may be different than in some other jurisdictions, but for us, we are very focused on protecting the $1.4 billion that we have invested, the 36,000 new homes that we created, and the more people that we are attracting to DC who will need to find great housing. And our ecosystem around housing is different after the pandemic. So we are very focused on making sure that as a city, we are attracting capital investment, that we are making sure that the laws and policies, some of which were developed to address the pandemic, are reset. And we're also making sure that we're creating incentives and programs that attract capital to the district. And so when all of those capital markets open up, we want people to know that we have a policy environment that will allow them to build, that will meet our goals of more housing in the downtown, and help us meet our goals of affordability.
Madam Secretary, what's your thoughts about this moment in a national space about housing and why it's such an important issue everywhere we go?
Thank you. And first, I had the great honor of, I am a constituent of the mayor, proudly so, and I had the great honor of when I worked with the city, just really watching this mayor shine when it came to making sure that there was enough resources available to build affordable housing. So I want to thank her for being that mayor. I saw the mayor from San Antonio, another housing hero as well. The reason I lift this up is because at the federal level, we know that the housing crisis is being experienced locally. Whether it's a city, rural America, suburbs, we know that mayors and county executives are on the front line of figuring it out. And so what we see our responsibility is making sure that we're bringing to bear the resources. We're fighting to make sure that we're getting that from our friends on the Hill. We are making sure we're gathering the best information about the best ways to do things. When I've traveled the country, inevitably the mayor will say, where are they doing it right? Who can we learn from? Who's working on accessory dwelling units? Who's working on more permissive housing policies? And so we know that at HUD, it's a natural place to keep that information, but also to create an opportunity to gather, much like you all have here. There's always been, not always, we have had a housing supply issue since 2009, 2010, when we just really stopped building, particularly homes for first-time homeowners. It became more acute during the pandemic, and a number of different shifts happened, not just here in this city, but across the country. You had a lot of folks who lived in more dense areas, moving into less dense cities and counties, and with that demand driving up the cost of rent and also the purchase price of homes. And so for the first time in a long time, everyone, almost everywhere except the super wealthy, were feeling a housing crunch. Most people in rural America did not feel what they felt until we got to the pandemic. There was issues, but not like they were. Boise was the highest, had the hottest housing market in the country during the pandemic. Something that they had not experienced. It's cooled now, but something they had not experienced, as one example. So I think that coming out of the pandemic, we have learned that we need to figure out how to deal with the housing supply issue and housing costs in ways that are able to address it in different geographies. What DC needs is very different than what Salina, Kansas needs. What they need in Miami may be very different than what they need, say, in New York. But here's what I'm excited about. I've been in the housing business for a long time. I've never seen housing be at the tip of every leader's tongue the way that it is right now. And it's unfortunate that it took a housing crisis to get here. But we are here. And so the question for all of us is, how do we galvanize and have bipartisan approaches to the solutions that we need?
Mayor, thank you for that. That really grounds us in the conversation today. Mayor, as you look at the challenges, and you set a goal, I think it's 36,000, and you have achieved that goal. What have been the challenges that you've seen that you've had to overcome in order to achieve that goal locally?
Well, I think the biggest challenge that we had was convincing our political leadership that we could deliver on it. It was a lot to ask the legislature for $100 million every single year, when in previous years we hadn't gotten those dollars out the door. And the councilwoman who protected those funds is here, Councilmember Anita Bonds. She deserves a lot of credit for when I sent down $100 million. I would meet with her and I would explain to her why it was important and why I hoped she would lay her body in the middle of Pennsylvania Avenue to protect it, and she did. And that's why we were able to get out the door $1.4 billion. And I don't think she will mind me saying that as long as she was chair, there was never any slimming of those dollars. I can't say that now. And so it takes all of us to stand shoulder to shoulder to get those dollars out the door. That, I think, was the biggest challenge. What happened exactly the way we thought it would is that when the city was consistent in its funding gaps, the development community, both on the for-profit and the nonprofit side, was there with great projects, with good ideas, pulling together all kinds of resources and funding and saying, city, we pulled together a great project. This is the amount of affordability we want you to invest in. That worked exactly the right way. And now we are facing the situation where we have fewer housing starts, as the Secretary has mentioned. We have less production than we want. And so we have to reset policies, investments, and working with our partners to get those starts going again.
So let me talk to both of you about the partnership at the federal level. Because I do think there's a local responsibility, of course, because everybody knows their mayor and everybody knows their city council member. As you guys think of opportunities, where are the opportunities at the federal level? What specific programs that you have seen that have been successful nationally? And then, Mayor, where does it fit in your plan here as a city? Madam Secretary.
So one of the things I'm very proud of in the Biden-Harris administration is that we've tried to be the most pro-housing administration in history. What did that mean? We were very vigilant in terms of working across agencies, so not just HUD, because we have housing in our name, but across other federal departments to understand ways in which their resources could work and blend with HUD's resources to build more housing and to preserve the housing that we need to preserve, as the mayor indicated. We worked very closely with the Department of Transportation on some of the programs they have targeted to transit-oriented development. We worked very closely with the Department of Agriculture to work and beef up some of our rural housing goals. We worked very closely with EPA. Now, you know, one of the things that I did when I took this seat made it a goal to make every secretary a housing secretary. And so I would sit down with Administrator Regan and say, how can we use your billions of dollars to meet our housing goals? So as we speak, there's about $12 billion of EPA funds, of all things, EPA funds, that are available and will be more available in the months and years to come to help build new resilient housing, to help preserve housing and make it more energy efficient using EPA funds. And it's going to go to developers and owners across the country. It's not there yet. Wish we had more time. But that money, we've planted the seed for those funds to be available. One of the things I would say to anyone who's watching is HUD certainly is the strongest advocate for housing across the federal government. We get our CDBG funds, we get our home funding. This administration has put more rental assistance out than any other administration in the past 20 years. We're proud of that. We've been able to reduce we've been able to put more funding out to help with actual housing supply barrier issues through our pro-housing program. So we've tried to be very intentional about how we not just talked about it. The need is so great, though. The need is so great that it was sometimes difficult to really penetrate the messaging that needed to come with the resources that we have out there. But we've planted so many seeds across this country, and what I'm going to be excited about is just watching the fruits of our labor as mayors like the ones that are in this room are able to use those resources.
Mayor, again, how have you use those federal resources to achieve your success in housing supply?
We tap into every federal resource possible and we ask for more. Obviously, what the Secretary has mentioned around home funds and CBG, I'm terrible with acronyms. CDBG, Community Development Grants, but also veterans, these FASH vouchers, I think stand as one of the best programs that have come out of the feds that help get veterans housed, and we hope there continues to be a focus on that. But the Secretary also mentioned earlier that we have to be focused, I think, especially for organizations like ours and NLC, and on bipartisan approaches. People having safe, affordable housing shouldn't be a partisan issue. We have to make sure that the good ideas that Democrats have are advanced, the good ideas that Republicans come up with are advanced around housing, because we know, and we are a housing first city, that when people have safe and affordable housing, they make great decisions around jobs, education for their kids, and their ability to buy homes and build wealth when they have safe and affordable housing. And I couldn't agree more with the Secretary's point that all of the infrastructure dollars that will come from the bipartisan infrastructure bill can support how we invest in housing, and the environmental dollars are equally important in that regard. But the thing that I know that we'll talk about today, and I know that you're thinking about and the leadership of NLC is thinking about, is how do we approach new leaders in the Congress? How do we work with agency directors? And this secretary, I think, and I'll brag on her a little bit, we go so far back that when she led our public housing agency, I was a new council member and had oversight over her agency. And she shoots straight. She tells it like it is. She can work on both sides of the aisle, and she's a subject matter expert. So I know that she is leaving HUD in good stead and will be willing and able to assist the next national leadership. So I think that leaves us in a good place. But I think, you know how I feel. I don't we shouldn't wait for the fight to come to us on housing. So let's go to agencies. Let's go to a congressional leadership as a bipartisan organization and say, this is what we know works and this is how you can help us.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah.
So there is a playbook for what needs to happen next. I mean, for those of you with long memories, you might remember back in 2022, we actually had a $150 billion housing investment proposal that was just within our grasp, just within our grasp. But inside of that plan is some of the best ideas, some of them bipartisan ideas, so we don't have to start from scratch. Everything from homeownership to homelessness, it's all right there. So I think if we blow the dust off of that and we begin to think about ways to energize people on the Hill about how this will benefit their districts, I think we hopefully can get something done.
Let me ask you, first of all, I found out something that you guys have in common. Both of y'all straight shooters. So at least your staff said that about you, Mayor. But anyway, so let me just let me ask an inspirational global question. And what's your dream around housing for your residents? What's your dream around housing for the nation? Madam Secretary, you want to go?
I'm going to start with the mayor.
I think, listen, I think that people who work hard every day should be able to afford housing. And I'll answer you by telling you my story. Okay. I was able to buy a home when I was 27 years old in a neighborhood that I thought was good, but could be better. I think it cost $125,000. I got a first-time homeowners grant for $5,000. I participated in NACA, which is a first-time home buyers program. That little house has fueled my entire life. That's how I have built wealth. That will be part of my daughter's legacy. That's allowed me to take risk on myself. And it was because I believed in the dream of home ownership, and I was able to achieve it for my family. And that's what I want for every Washingtonian that's willing to work hard for it. The government is also here for people who need, more help. And I want to, from our, affordable housing to public housing, to transform it so they have a safe place to launch their lives. That's what the government's job is.
I think that from a national standpoint, my hope and dreams is that we can get, and I said it at the top, the kind of bipartisan congressional support that we truly need to get the resources that are known to work. The low-income housing tax credit program works. We need to get that bill across the line. We need to get more resources out there to help our homeless brothers and sisters. And I'll pick up on what the mayor said. My parents didn't have a lot of money. They did not have a lot of money. And so we had a very humble home. But out of that home, they were able to produce someone who worked for the President of the United States. And that would not have happened without feeling safe and loved. And that only happens when you have a home that's stable. So my hope is that there is no child anywhere in this country that ever feels the instability of not being able to come home and just be a kid. That is my dream for America.
Well, I think this panel has really established the challenge for us today to really help others to be able to achieve their dream and understand first that wealth building starts oftentimes with the ability to have a home and to be able to build from that home a neighborhood, a place that you can raise your kids, a community that you can drive into the garage or park in front of, a place that you have a sense of pride. When that happens, residents feel like, wow, I live in Washington, D.C. I just don't transition through. And as well, this example here today, we're going to learn from other leaders from throughout America how we thread that connection between transportation, housing, safety, public safety. So I want to thank our panelists, Mayor and Madam Secretary, for their time and their wisdom. And I want everybody to weigh in today so that we can address this issue. Thank you all so much, and I appreciate it. Mayor?
Thank you, Clarence. Thank you, Mayor.